start off with a video before I do an official welcome. So over to you, Rebecca. So a huge welcome to you all to our Giving Hope together on the 5th of May at 11 o'clock. And my name is Jenny Herrera. I'm the Executive Director of Acts 435, and it's really special to gather our supporters, including our donors and our advocates and those who may just want to understand a little bit more about Acts 435, what we do and why. We're excited to share with you today some updates about the charity, to launch our annual report, and most importantly, hear from a couple of our advocates about their work on the ground. We will have time for questions later in the hour, so do feel free to pop any questions you may have in the chat. If they come to mind now, then just pop them in and we will pick them up later on in our hour together. We are live streaming this event, mindful that some people do want to hear more about Acts 435, but don't feel comfortable joining a Zoom call, and we wanted to make it super accessible. So we will manage the questions through the chat function rather than inviting people to unmute and share their question. As I said, that is to protect you from suddenly popping up on YouTube or a Facebook link that you might not have wanted to. We are an accessible bunch though, and if at the end you have a question you do want to ask, please feel free to contact us separately by email and we can follow up with you that way. Or actually once we finish the live stream and if you're on the Zoom call, you might want to stay around and we can take a few questions as well. After a brief introduction, I will be passing on to my colleague Katie, who will share our annual report with you. And then on to another colleague, Rona, who is going to introduce our advocates. After we've heard from our advocates, I will share a little of our future plans before taking questions. So, some of you may have heard this many times before, but I want to make sure anyone new to Acts 435 does not miss out on our history. Acts 435 was the idea of Julian Richer, entrepreneur and founder of Richer Sounds, the hi-fi retail chain. He read about the needs of individual people in UK poverty, and also about a sense of donor fatigue in charity giving, where donors wanted to help, but were unsure where their money was actually going. He wanted to provide a way that would directly connect those people who wanted to help with people in need through what is essentially a crowdfunding website. This is fairly common now, but back in 2009, it was pretty revolutionary. It was a really quite unique way of making this connection. The key was that the way to do this effectively, ensuring that the needs were genuine, was to use a ready-made branch network of local churches and local charities around the UK. Julian wanted the church to front it, and the Archbishop of York at that time, Dr. John Sentamu, agreed to his crazy idea and gave the charity our name, which of course comes from the book of Acts, chapter 4 and verse 35, where the early church met together, they broke bread together, they came together on a regular basis, but they also sold things and distributed to anyone in need. So right from the beginning of the early church, they were reaching out to those who are in need. And what our Acts 435 enables is us to do that much wider across the UK, because the reality is in our country, there are parts of it that there is real deprivation and great need. And actually even the churches in those areas are often on very low budgets, struggling just to cover their own basic costs. But there are other areas of the country where there is quite a lot of affluence, but there are plenty of individuals who care and want to do something about so many people who are struggling, especially now as we hear so much about the challenges of the cost of living crisis, increases in energy prices, inflation, petrol costs, you name it, our budgets are being squeezed. So Acts 435 just feels as relevant today as it did when we first launched in 2009, just after the 2008 financial crash, where there was a lot of need. Sadly, a decade of austerity has meant that that need has just continued to grow. So over the last 12 years, we've helped over 36,000 people with individual items, such as a fridge, school uniform, a bed. We've stepped into a multitude of situations, such as homelessness, domestic violence, being in low-paid work, helping refugees, the impact of ill health, and the burden of debt. We're partnered with churches from all the main denominations and a variety of different charities, and love being a completely free resource to them. They are doing the amazing work. We just get to assist them in what they're doing so that they can do even more for the people that they are connected to. I've been with Acts 435 since we launched the pilot in York Diocese in 2009. And for many years, it was just me keeping the inner workings of Acts 435 going, with crucial help from the guy who built our website. Over recent years, we've grown our team as Acts 435 has expanded, and we now number 5. Rona is our operations director, Carol, who is our administrator, Katie, our partnerships director, and Becca heading up all our comms work and in charge of our tech today. We're fully funded by the gift aid that we reclaim on donations made by taxpayers, which was always the model to enable us to be fully self-sustaining. We come alongside other networks working in the area of UK poverty to offer our services, including Christians Against Poverty, the Trussell Trust Food Bank Network, Community Money Advice, and the St Vincent de Paul Society, which has been an area we've really grown in recently, and it's just been great to connect with many SVP conferences around the country. That's how we keep our operations tight in the centre. Collectively, the 5 of us only actually make up 2.3 full-time equivalents. We have no fundraiser, and yet we've been able to keep this resource free to our churches and charities. And we are so grateful to them for their help in spreading the word to potential donors. We need them to do that, and we're so grateful that they do. Acts 435 is about people-to-people giving. We don't receive any corporate donations, nor do we apply for grant funding for all the requests on our website. We have had a larger gifts fund running on and off for the past 3 or 4 years, and we have had some grant funding there. But when it comes to all the requests that are placed on our website, this is individual people giving to those needs. Sometimes those requests on our website number over 200 at a time. We get a little nervous, but we're grateful to our donors who continue to give. And as a Christian charity, we look to God for the ultimate provision for all those needs, all those different ways that a small gift makes a big difference. Because you see, if everyone stopped giving today, those people simply wouldn't have their need met. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Katie, who's going to share with you our annual report and look at some specific updates from our previous financial year, which runs from the 1st of August 2020 to the 31st of July 2021. I can't resist one spoiler though. This is the first year we hit over £1 million of income in a single year, which kicked us well and truly into needing a full audit. Last year we had a full audit because we hit over £500,000, and that is the limit for the Scottish charity regulator. For the Charity Commission in England and Wales, it's £1 million, so we well and truly hit it this time, and we've just finished a full audit of our accounts. But £1 million in 1 year, it is just incredible, and almost doubling the generosity of the year before. So over to you, Katie.
Wonderful, thank you, Jenny. Hi there, my name's Katie Green and I'm the Partnerships Director at Acts 435. So part of my role is seeking new partnerships with churches, local charities, as well as with donors and other organisations who are doing similar work and working in a similar field to us. So as Jenny said, I'm really excited to share with you our second ever annual report, glossy annual report that is something we can share with supporters. And as Jenny says, it covers August 2020 to July 2021. And during that year, we hit some significant milestones. And as the pandemic remained, the increase in need continued to rise. So this specific year's annual report is a great illustration of how Acts 435 was consistent during the crisis that the UK found itself in. And hopefully a testament as well to how we will continue to provide help for those who need it most during the next crisis, as the cost of living just continues to increase, as Jenny has been explaining. So in this annual report, which you'll hopefully be seeing on your screen, you'll find impact stories of those who have been helped through our work, as well as statements from our Executive Director, Jenny, and our Chair of Trustees, Julian Richer. You'll also see a little bit more about our future plans, which are being put in place now, and Jenny will go on to explain later today. So also included in the report, as you can see, is a timeline of the financial year, which just includes some really exciting highlights and some very big milestones on our journey as a charity, not just for this year, but for us as a charity as a whole. So as you can see on the timeline, hopefully, we reached the milestone of 25,000 people helped. And it's just a fantastic figure in the 11 years that we had been working up until that point of helping 25,000 people in need. And this total also makes the increasing need just even more apparent, I think, as just in the 12 months since that, sorry, not the 12 months, the 18 months since that, we've helped another 11,000 people during this time of national crisis. We also saw the milestone of £3 million given since we began, and that 3 million going directly to individuals in need, all donated by people seeking to help those who needed it most in their time of crisis. We also hosted last year our first ever Giving Hope Together, which, as you will hopefully testify after today, is just a great opportunity to encourage each other in our work and share with those who want to know more about what we do. In June of last year as well, we also said a big thank you and goodbye to Margaret Sentamu, who stepped down on our board of trustees. She served us so well on the board, and we were really sad to see her go. Although, however, we are still in touch with her, and she is still a wonderful champion for our work at Acts 435. During that financial year as well, we had two mammoth appeals, our Christmas appeal and our Easter Fresh Start appeal, and both of which were the biggest appeals we'd ever run, with in total £113,105 given by individual donors to meet the needs of many individuals. I finally just wanted to show you a couple of our statistics at a glance pages. So Becca, all credit to Becca, who heads up our comms. She's put together this report, and she's made it really accessible. So hopefully these statistics pages are just a really helpful illustration of how faithful God has been to us financially, and how we were able to help more people than ever before. So during that financial year, we helped over 7,000 people, which is nearly 600 individuals each month. And as well as that, it was the first financial year, as Jenny's already spoilt in her introduction, that we saw over £1 million given by individuals, which included their gift aid on donations as well, but income of over £1 million, which is just a significant milestone for us as a charity. I think that it's also really fascinating here in this financial year was the beginning of a new trend for us as a charity, with a steep increase in donations and the average amount of people helped each month too. And this last one here, this slide, that's one, Becca, thank you. This last slide just shows that steep increase. So this graph here shows the last 5 years of the amount of requests posted by our local advocates onto our website. and what an increase in need there has been. And it just shows how hard those on the front line are working in churches and local charities, just how hard they've been working during the pandemic, and posting a staggering amount of requests for those who they were seeing who had those individual specific needs. Finally, we're really thankful as a team that we were able to be consistent and constant in serving those in need during this financial year, just seeking to help them, all of which wouldn't have been possible without God. So we're really thankful to God for this financial year that we had, and you can read more of the annual report, including the financial statement, so a bit more detail on our website. You just need to head to our website, acts435.org.uk, and click on Partner with Us, and on there you'll find a tab that says Resources, and you'll find it there. You can also explore in that document. Becca's made it really accessible with loads of links, so you can click on certain pictures and you'll see some highlights of our year there as well. Thank you, Becca, for sharing that. And I'm just going to pass over to my colleague Rona next, and we're going to hear from a couple of our advocates who are, as I just said, working so hard on the front line, just seeing the needs of individuals every day. So over to you, Rona.
Thank you, Katie. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rona Elwood. I am the Operations Director for Acts 435. As part of my role, it is my very great privilege to work closely with our network of advocates who are based in churches and charities around the UK. We are delighted to have a number of those advocates with us this morning, and we're going to hear from two of them shortly. But for those of you who are not familiar with the advocate role, we thought it'd be helpful to give you a brief introduction. Quite simply, the advocates are the front line of Acts 435. They are the people who are working on the ground, serving the people in need in their local communities and bringing those individuals' needs to Acts 435. When an advocate meets or is made aware of an individual with a specific financial need, they can use their account with Acts 435 to post that on our website for our donors to read and to consider supporting. The advocate role is incredibly important, as it is their responsibility to represent the applicants well, to tell their story and communicate to our wonderful donors why their support is so desperately needed. The advocates are then also responsible for sending the thank you messages to donors once a request has been met in full and the funds used to help the intended applicant with their specific need. Throughout the pandemic, we were blown away watching our already very busy advocates work even harder to maintain contact with those in need in their communities and support them through Acts 435. With the restrictions we were all living under, we were amazed by the creative ways our advocates found to ensure that those in need were not forgotten. As the cost of living rises and more people than ever are beginning to feel the strain, the number of requests for help we are receiving is ever increasing. While we are saddened by the level of need, we are so grateful for our wonderful advocates who are out there on the front line and bringing those needs to us. And I want to introduce two of our advocates who we have asked to share with you how they use Acts 435 in their community and context and what that looks like in the current climate. First of all, we have Jenny Clayton from the St Augustine's Conference of the St Vincent de Paul Society in Chelmsford. Jenny has been an advocate with us since the beginning of 2019, and in that time has posted almost 150 requests for help on the Acts 435 website on behalf of local people in need. Jenny, it's lovely to have you with us this morning. Over to you.
Thank you, Rona. I'm amazed that we've posted nearly 150, but not surprised in other ways because we use Acts 435 such a lot, and it's such an amazing tool for us. So as Rona said, I'm part of a conference, a local group in a parish of the St Vincent de Paul Society, which is an international charity that's allied with the Catholic Church. And our aim is to help anyone in need. And in our area, we found need in various ways. So we befriend the elderly and families. But what we really started to see, probably when we joined up about 3 years ago, was a need for furniture in our local area. And we therefore supply secondhand furniture to people moving in. Quite often they move in with nothing, having fled domestic violence, been housed by the council in a temporary accommodation that's unfurnished. They might have recovered from homelessness and have nothing, or be ex-offenders, or various other family breakdown situations and things that lead them into social housing with very little. And we aim to provide them furniture, and we do that fairly well with second-hand furniture, but there's some things we really can't do second-hand. Cookers, second-hand ones, don't pass the electrical safety test very well, and we certainly don't have the time to fiddle with them too much. So we use Acts 435 to raise funds. Lots of it is cookers. So being able to raise that £150, which pays for the majority of the cost of a cooker, just means that we can continue to do that for people that come into housing with no cooker. And furniture poverty is such a it sort of interrelates to every other type of poverty so dramatically. There's figures from End Furniture Poverty that says living without a cooker can cost a family up to £2,000 per year. So it has a massive impact on the rest of their budgets. So we're really passionate about making sure people have the furniture and white goods they need. We also see a lot in Chelmsford, there's a lack of flooring. So social housing is quite often provided in our area with only flooring in bathrooms and kitchens. And quite often young children are sort of moved into those properties where the gripper rods with all the spikes are exposed, and there's no flooring, no support for flooring. And as many of you are aware, if budgets are tight, it's a long while until you can afford carpet. And we work closely with a local flooring supplier to be able to provide carpets for rooms using Acts 435's funding. And that's really amazing to us. It just makes such a difference to people. So I was just going to tell you a couple of stories about families we've come across. One was a really sad situation of a lady we came to know. She was initially referred to us by social services for help with furniture. She had fled a difficult sort of domestic abuse situation with her mum. She was only young, had a young child herself of only 4. And we helped them with furniture for a while and befriended them and started to get to know them. And unfortunately, it became apparent that she had to move once within Chelmsford when one of her family members made known to her mum where she was living, and mum came to try and find them again. And then at another point in time, they were rehoused in a second house in Chelmsford, and unfortunately another family member told mum again. So it was a very difficult situation for her that she couldn't reach out to family members because they just seemed to pass on her details to mum again. And she had to be rehoused again, well out of the area, at very short notice. So we used Acts 435 to raise some funds to be able to support her removal costs, to be able to move elsewhere very quickly. We needed that money much quicker than we usually do with Acts 435, but we posted the request, shared it on our Facebook page, and I don't know how quick it was, but it was certainly same day, within a couple of hours, that the request was met, and that she was then able to move that same day to safety, which is as a mother, that's such a difficult situation, isn't it, when you feel unable to protect your young child from, unfortunately, a family member. But bringing them to safety was a real relief for us, as it will have been for her. So we had another situation, another story. It was just before Christmas. We had a family referred to us again by social services. Mum and dad were under social services care, and there was question marks whether the children, they have 4 children, 5 and under, were going to be removed from their care. And some of that was because the property wasn't in a reasonable state. So they weren't keeping it clean and tidy, and weren't keeping the children in fresh, clean clothes and things. And some of that was due to their appliances. So the social workers identified that none of their appliances were working. So they didn't have a working cooker, washing machine, or fridge freezer. And we were able to support with some of those secondhand and some of those with Acts 435 to be able to supply the things they needed, which meant that they could go on in having the items they needed to be able to keep the house clean and tidy. And therefore, social services were able to keep those children in their home and keep them safe. And it was lovely going around there just before Christmas. We delivered some Christmas presents to them, and seeing them, we'd provided a hoover as well, and seeing them hoovering and that the property was in sort of good, clean condition, and that knowing that that would make a sort of real difference to their children's future. So we are just so thankful to Acts 435. It gives us a tool which is so simple to use, and yet it's so such a gift and such a blessing to those that we use it to support. So thank you, Acts 435 team. We really couldn't do it without you.
Well, thank you, Jenny. We're grateful for you too, and we are so aware of the incredible work you are doing. So thank you. So now we have Laura Jassoy from Community Church Aberkenfig in South Wales. Laura signed up with us in the middle of 2020 amidst all the restrictions of the early pandemic. Even so, Laura has posted almost 50 requests for help on behalf of people in need and has become a huge help in spreading the word about Acts 435 as we seek for our network in Wales. Laura, thank you for being willing to share with us this morning. Over to you.
Hello, good morning. And it's actually sunny in Wales for a change. It's really good. Yes, I started with Acts 435 during lockdown because my area manager, I work for Christians Against Poverty. My area manager said, look, I've heard something about this charity. Can you look into it and see if this might help us? And honestly, within a few minutes of looking around the website and seeing what you did, I was just like, wow, why have I never heard about this before? And it's just gone from there. And in fact, you make it really easy because the website's so easy to use and it's really, to me, user friendly. So if I can log on as a new advocate during lockdown with all those restrictions, then it's pretty easy to do. It's very user friendly. So it was easy to log on as an advocate, and obviously helping my debt clients is the main priority because, like Jenny said, you're going into people's homes on low incomes. They don't have basic white goods. We're quite fortunate. We've got British Heart Foundation near us, and they have a PAT tester, and they do have really good quality secondhand fridge freezers, things like this that come in. And because they know it's coming from Acts 435, which they now know about, they do give us a big discount and don't charge for delivery, which is great. And we've been able to help out. A big one is the debt relief orders. Some clients who are just totally unable to repay their debts, they're on a low income now, they don't work anymore, then it's a £90 fee for CAP to be able to process that so they can become debt free. And the donors who commit to paying towards that is amazing, because even I admit myself, when I've donated online, I physically want to see something I'm donating to. Is it a school uniform? Is it shoes for somebody? So for donors who are donating for a debt relief order, which isn't so tangible, I think that's amazing, because you're not going to quite get to see that effect of somebody going debt free, because their debts are cleared and they can then begin their life again, so to speak, on a clean slate. So if there's anyone who's contributed to a debt relief order fee today, just thank you so much, because it makes it so easy for us when we present the budget to the client to say, well, look, head office have suggested a debt relief order. It is a £90 fee, but I can raise that for you with this charity Acts 435. And I never say it might be raised, because I have such faith in this charity and in God's working that I say to them, it will be, just be patient. So, and all the requests are met really quickly, which I think is amazing. And people are donating, you know, I know there are consistent donors. I think is so good and encouraging that there's people out there who want to help. And because you can see what you're donating for, so to speak, all that money is going to that person that they need for something. It's not just money going into a pot. It's going to be helping somebody in particular, which is just just really good. So thank you on behalf of CAP. But also I seem to have been passed, my number seemed to have got passed down to the Woolwich charity in South Wales, not even in my area. And they deal with a lot of the travelling communities. So they're support workers for them. And this is really crazy, but I've had quite a few requests saying a family's been moved into a caravan, but there's no beds for the children. Because the bed size that fit into this caravan are not standard size that the council accept to pay money for as in a discretionary fund, they won't provide these beds for the children. So my heart has been breaking thinking of all these families, children being moved onto a new caravan in a site with no beds. So we've raised those. But the last one we did, because I sort of pushed it a little bit more with the support workers saying, I can't believe that the local council don't provide this because it's not a uniform size bed. So I did pray about it. And then a few weeks ago, the support worker from the Woolwich said the council have changed their minds now. And they are going to fund with discretionary funding beds that are of an unusual size to fit into these caravans, which I think, wow, that's like a ripple effect, I think, that we've been able to sort of at least raise that issue maybe to that it just did not make sense at all. One of my other favourite requests was for a gentleman who's on his own, and he did get a dog and he got run over very soon after having this dog. But the fees for the vet came to, I think, about 250 at the time. But he did say he had saved some money and he was working really hard. So he did have £100 towards it. Could we raise the other 150? Which I thought was great because for his own dignity as well, he knows he's raised some of it and just couldn't obviously quite manage that last bit because some vets do not release pets until the entire bill has been paid. So they would have had to he would have had to keep the dog in for longer. Acts 435 raised money for a lady who had just been a complete hoarder by the sounds of it from her support worker. And so we raised money for a skip, which was great because she could just get rid of all that rubbish in one big go and just start again, so to speak, which I think is good. And even just people in my local community that we can help and say, well, we can do that for you. Acts 435 can do that because Aberkenfig, the village I live in, is just north of Bridgend. We're in between Swansea and Cardiff. It's not very affluent. It's not, our church doesn't have any money to help people at all. So if it wasn't for Acts 435, there's loads of things we couldn't raise for clients. I'm just going to be putting on a request today for a family in debt that I visited the other week, desperately trying to help their daughter get a prom dress. They've got nothing in their house. They've got no beans at all, as they say. So for us to be able to put that request up, hopefully that their eldest daughter can have the prom that, really all of us, deserve, so to speak, will be really good. And I know donors will commit to that because when you can't provide for your own children or as much as you'd like to, that's really, really hard. Both parents are severely disabled, so they physically can't help. So I'm grateful, and I'm so thankful to all the donors, and I'm really happy to be an advocate. And I just tell everybody, and in fact, I had a church meeting this morning with the local church leaders here, and there's a couple of new ones who hadn't heard about Acts 435. So I said, well, you're in for a treat. So I just shared what you do with them. So thank you to everyone who contributes to Acts 435. It's fab.
Thank you, Laura, so much. And Jenny, that was great. Between the pair of you, you managed to cover a lot of different situations, a lot of different ways that Acts 435 can be used. Just a couple of reflections, really, as I was listening. This sense of being referred by social services, I think one of the things I've seen over the years is that actually in local areas, Acts 435 may not be known by a lot of people still because we don't do big advertising and fundraising campaigns. But in local areas, social services are looking to some of our partner churches to help with the needs that they are seeing. And I just think that's fabulous. It really connects the church. In the past, local councils had a lot of different crisis loans and funds, which they just don't have. And the church is really stepping into that gap there. And yeah, it's just a great witness, isn't it, of what's going on. And I've written down generosity begets generosity. I love it when we hear that a local provider, so a local floor provider or a local white goods charity or whatever, as they hear that the money's come from Acts 435, they waive the delivery fee. I mean, it's just great because then together we're all working to help people and you know, our small bit does then come together with someone else's small bit, and together we make a real difference in the lives of individuals. So it's just really really great to hear those stories. Thank you very much for sharing them with us this morning. As we were looking at those, I do hope you will take a look at our annual report and read through some of the stories there, slowly look at some of those statistics. That graph that Katie was showing at the end, it's interesting where you get that sudden, the line going, you know, the gradient of the line going right up. And 2 years before that, it's actually straight. And let me tell you, our trustees were like, things seem to have stagnated. I remember it really clearly, November 18. Julian Richard is all about the numbers. So we do monthly graphs, weekly reports, and he was looking at monthly graphs and he's like, November 2018 seems to be the same as November 2017. Have we stagnated? Yeah, and it's just interesting to think back then at that stage and how things have taken off since then, really. And we just hope that as people like Laura, as she says, telling church leaders, spreading the word, and that her phone number gets passed on to someone else, we want to see more and more churches and charities partnering with us. And that's really sort of our goal as a charity. We had in 2020, just before the pandemic, at the beginning of 2020, we set a goal of working with 1,000 partners by 2025 and helping 1,000 people a month. And we are probably around 600 partners, so we are growing, but there's quite a way really to get to that 1,000. We are helping sort of 600 to 700 sometimes people a month, and we just, I mean, these are just numbers and goals, but we want to, it gives you a sense of the fact that we want to just keep pushing outwards, because there are parts of the country where we have no Acts 435 churches at all, or charities, and we want to be able to give to anyone in need. We want someone, wherever they are in England, Scotland, Wales or Northern Ireland, to be able to access support, but that's only going to happen as our network grows. And if we were to get to 1,000 people a month, that would require donations of over £120,000 a month to sustain that. So, you know, they're big numbers, and our experience has been that as we've grown, I was going to give you some Spanish then, poco a poco, little by little as we grow, we will keep building up that network, because one thing we've always said from the very beginning is it has to grow in balance. If we suddenly added 500 churches today, and those 500 churches all started posting requests, it would threaten to overwhelm the website. But on the flip side, if we did some massive advertising campaign, we got loads of donors coming in, they clear the website, and then all the next donors that come onto our website be like, well, that's weird, why is there nothing to give to? So we've always had a model of organic growth, and it's worked. As word has spread and new churches and charities have partnered with us, they've spread the word, more donors have come on board, and through other avenues like social media and different publicity that we might do. So we focus the work of our small team on developing strategic partnerships, because we can't be all over the place. So we have to look at where are the places that we haven't got anyone, where are the networks that can really help us get the word out. We're also experimenting with different media and marketing opportunities to reach those new donors so that we can get that balance. Later this financial year, which for the astute amongst you will know that that's the end of July, so within the next 3 months, we plan to launch a brand new website, which we hope will serve us well for the next decade of growth. It has been rather a long drawn out process, but here's a little bit of a taster. This is to have increased functionality for our partners as they're posting their requests, but also to make it more engaging for our donors as well, and get rid of some of the grey on our current website. So we are working on that, and we're looking forward to sharing that with you. You can bring that slide down now. Thanks, Becca. And, you know, we've done all this seeking God's guidance, trusting in his continued provision, and that's where we still remain, and we just continue to push forwards, and the team just do a fantastic job, and yeah, we're just for us, it's a privilege. We feel like we serve the donors by giving you a way to give directly. We serve the advocates by giving you this free resource to use. And of course, we serve the people who are in need of those items that they just cannot fund from anywhere else. So I want to hand it over now to some questions. This is your moment. I think there might be one or two in the chat which I'm going to look at, but really, if you do have a question, you know, I would love to answer it, or another member of the team, or one of our advocates if it's for them. I'm sure they wouldn't mind answering. So do pop your question in the chat. And we'll take them there. I'm just going to take this one right at the beginning that Steve popped in while it came to your mind. So how can people support a local need in their own community through Acts 435 if they are not online? So he shares that if he as an advocate is given cash, then he makes a donation on their behalf. How does that affect gift aid? So first of all, if people don't want to give online, then they can always send a check in to us. We take checks, and somebody will say, oh, here's a check, allocate it where you think best. Other people will say, here's a check, can you make sure it goes to children or homelessness? And we will do that. We do know that advocates get given cash and then they make the donation. You could, I mean, ultimately, I would say that if the person is a taxpayer and you're a taxpayer and you know it's within your threshold, then you can just do it under your name. If that isn't the case, because you do have to be paying enough tax to support that reclaiming of gift aid, another option would be to register them an account, but you're still the one doing it with your card. That could be a way to do it. So the other day I went into somewhere, and I think it might have been our local library, cash, a no cash place. Oh no, I think it was the leisure centre. And I just thought, gosh, less and less people, which is hard sometimes. If I want to send my son to go and buy something, I just want to give him the cash. So there's always a place still where we need cash. And I'm sure Laura would agree with me from a CAP perspective that actually there can be a huge value in having cash that you count out and budget. So, you know, we do want to make sure that those sort of ways of giving still remain accessible to support Acts 435. Do you recommend any guidelines for how local churches can use Acts 435 to help local people with needs? So when an advocate comes on board, we have a set of guidelines, and some of our partners, a lot of our partners are already engaged in the community, doing those things, and they kind of have their own policies in place already. They have to have a safeguarding policy in place, of course, but they will also have other policies on how they're engaging. But there are a good number as well that come to us completely fresh and say, we want to do something in our community, but we don't know what. I will use an example in Cleckheaton, a really keen bunch of advocates, Churches Together group, but it was a Methodist church that was heading it up. And they signed up to Acts 435 and then they just let everyone know, and nothing really happened. They gave out a phone number, they got a special phone number, and they kind of talked to the councils and just different organisations, schools in the area. And there was even a story in the newspaper about someone in real need. So they contacted the newspaper, could we possibly help this family? No, they were all right, they didn't need help, and they were sort of despairing until one day the council made that connection, called them and said, oh, we understand you might be able to help with some of the people that we're seeing that are vulnerable and in need of a particular item. And from there, well, the only way was up after that. They post numerous requests each month for different people that they're connected to. So one of the ways that we work with local partners is to buddy them up with another charity that could help, or another church, and I think our network are always keen to support one another. So we sort of have set guidelines, but we can connect you in, because what we say to our local partners is, you can use Acts 435 in the way that's right for you, and we've been really focused on being flexible. So some places we work with the whole Churches Together network, some places we work just with an individual church, in some churches we have multiple advocates, in another church we'll have someone who organises for multiple advocates on the ground. We want to be flexible, and so therefore we say to our advocates, you can use this as much or as little as you like. Maybe you run a food bank, and as you speak to people, you use it, or maybe you only use it for certain types of needs. But others have been outstanding. They have gone and connected with other churches, the Citizens Advice down the road, the homeless charity up the street, and as the word has got out, then they've even recruited more advocates for us. And that's, that's what we want to see. We want to see more and more partners connecting in with us and just getting to the people in need. Hopefully that answers your question. Right, any other questions? Right, we didn't want to, we talked before, if there weren't many questions, we've either done a brilliant job of covering everything, or there may be a question you want to email us separately, which is absolutely fine. In my opinion, there's no point pulling out through an hour if we haven't got any other questions at this stage. So what I am going to do is I'm going to hand over to Katie for a last section before I close us in prayer.
Wonderful, thank you, Jenny. Yeah, just a little bit more from me, really. We thought we'd take this wonderful opportunity of speaking to many of you to share with you our exciting refreshed resources and literature. So as you've already seen from Jenny, we're working on a brand new website, which will be fresher and just a little bit more up to date and more current. So we thought we'd pull in our resources at the same time and refresh them too. And hopefully in sharing them with you, we really want to just encourage you to spread the word about our work as well. So at Acts 435, we have no fundraising department and no one person seeking donations on our behalf. A lot of our feedback we receive from donors is that they've heard about us either through their local church or just by word of mouth. And it's one of the things that makes about our work that makes us so unique, but it also means that we rely on people talking about us. So we really hope that we can encourage you to do that today. We would love you to follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, and now Instagram, and share us with your family and friends through those mediums. But also we have these new pieces of literature, which I'm just going to hold up and show you, but we'd love you to share these with others, and whether that's friends and family who might potentially want to donate through our website, or other churches, church leaders and outreach workers who might want to be resourced in reaching out to those in need. So our first one here is our donor postcard. And this just gives people a glimpse of what we're about and entices them hopefully to go to the website and check us out. And then we've got our trifold leaflet here, which is all nice and refreshed, no grey in sight, and it just gives people a bit more information. So this is really helpful if you've got a church or local charity that might be up for partnering with us. And also for churches, we now have some giving envelopes as well, which we've refreshed and revamped too. So all three of those things are available if you would like them, and just drop us an email, which is admin@acts435.org.uk. In addition to those pieces of literature, I was just going to give you a sneak peek. We've also refreshed all of our literature for our advocates as well. So they all just look a bit fresher and a bit more inviting too. So hopefully that's just giving you a bit of an example, really. But finally, I wanted to share a save the date with you. And Becca's just going to pop up a little slide on the screen, but it's for our upcoming Acts 435 Sunday. So we've run these for the past couple of years, and it's a great opportunity to share our work with your church congregation if you're part of a church. And this year it's on Sunday the 10th of July, although it could be run on another point in the year. It just happens to be the closest Sunday to our anniversary of our launch of Acts 435. This year we'll be providing an inspirational video about our work, as well as a pre-recorded sermon by Jenny, who's speaking on the book of Ruth and the importance to our faith of telling and responding to a story. So if you would like to share in Acts 435 Sunday, please fill out the Google form, which will just appear in the chat if you're on Zoom. But if you are watching us live streamed, then we will make sure we share that on our social media platforms as well. So you can click on that and fill in a form to let us know that you're interested in receiving the materials once they're available closer to July. So that's Sunday the 10th of July. And we would love you, as I said before, to share our work with your friends, family, your churches, so that more people can get on board in donating towards these specific needs of individuals throughout the UK. Thank you. I'll pass back to you, Jenny.
Great, thanks, Katie. Yes, do request some literature if you would like, and you have a way to guide people, a way to spread the word to others. I was just distracted there by a question. How can people support a local in the room? Yeah, okay. So
that was me again.
So great. Well, it's been wonderful to have you all. I just want to finish with a prayer. This was not one I wrote. I spotted this on Christian Aid's website, and I just thought it was great. We obviously live in a very difficult and challenging time at the moment, not only with the financial challenges for those in UK poverty, but obviously with the situation going on in Ukraine. And it can be tough, can't it? Justice and peace can seem a long way off. So let me just finish with this prayer. God of the impossible, we pray for justice, peace, and reconciliation. And when the challenges seem too many, remind us of your resurrection power and the miracles of your love that happen whenever injustice is dismantled and rebuilt with peace. Help us to hope that the impossible can happen and live as if it might do so today. Amen. Great, we're going to end the live stream there. Thank you.